welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving back into our Fix series. For the first book, which was Fixed on You, that link is going to be down in the description below. So if you haven't checked that out first, and then you can join us as we jump into Found in You. So Found in You is the second book in our book series. And so the book opens up right where it left off, where Hudson had told her that his actual home was at a place called the Bowery. So somewhere totally different than what she thought. So she has the address. She's waiting outside the building, and she's doing her normal overthinking as usual. He's left the key with the doorman. So the doorman's kind of like, are you coming in, And she's just like, I just need a minute, So she's still going back and forth in her head. And so it was just like I thought. It was that penthouse that was by the in the same building as Hudson Industries as his office. That's the fuck pad. I knew it. I was like, that was just nothing but a fuck pad. So it's she finally goes up. She gets the nerve, and it's like total opposite of the fuck pad. We're just gonna call it that because I don't. That's what it is. So the fuck pad is more like bachelor-esque, just dark, that type of thing. It's just not really homey. Whereas this one is kind of white and bright, different colors. It's more like seems more so like a home. So it's just totally like night and day. So both of these, of course, was decorated by Celia. We found out via the mother in our last book. So of course, as soon as she gets in, they share a passionate kiss. He was like, I'll give you a tour in the morning. So, cause he was finna get her. And so she tells him she loves him. And he tells her, you can say it to me as many times as you want. But keep in mind, he still has not said it to her. So the next morning, she wakes up, goes to the bathroom. She finds a robe and some other toiletries that are for like women. She flips out because she's like, wait a minute. You just invited me like the evening before, like that earlier that evening. It was probably like 8 or 9 o'clock when you were like, come to I'll give the address to, and you come to my actual home. So it's like, there's no way he could have all this stuff here. This has to belong to someone else. So she comes out of the bathroom and she demands to know what other women he's had in this apartment. What does he have going on? Because she deserves to know the truth. I was like, this poor girl. And so he's like, well, if you check the robe, you'll see that there's still a tag on it. And he's like, I had someone, I got money, pretty much, money makes a lot of things happen. So I was able to get all this stuff for you, and then she felt stupid. But then of course, she calmed down, but I thought that was the funniest thing. So they do it again, of course. Then he finally leaves for work because he had already told the office he wasn't going to be in that morning. Because normally Hudson's up at 6 a.m. So it's like 11ish. So, he took some time off from work. So he has a meeting that afternoon. So he's got to go. So she had gone back to take a shower after that romp again, and she thought she heard the door open, and she thought she heard some heels because she had gotten out of the shower, and it's Celia. So Celia has a key because she did decorate the place, and because they're constantly doing updates, she just kept the key. I don't like that, but okay. So they have a conversation about how, her and Hudson are really together now. This is Elena telling Celia, no, it's real now. Like we're in a real relationship. then they start to discuss, like she kind of lets her know about the conversation that her and Hudson had about how he still blames himself for what happened to Celia back in the day when she got pregnant. But it wasn't his kid, remember, but he still blames himself because, I guess his actions, he felt, is what drove her down that path. And so Celia's like, he really needs to like let that go. I'm a big girl. I made my own decisions. He really needs to let that go. And so then Elena, she's still kind of iffy about the situation because we can't really ignore, the type of past he has and the games that he plays. And so being that Celia's known him so long, she feels comfortable. I don't trust this, but she apparently does. Felt like, this was some person she could kind of really talk about whatever fear she has in regards to the relationship. And so Celia kind of lets her know, I think he's for real. He's moved you in here. He's never moved a woman in here. He's never even brought a woman to this place, So, I mean, he seems to be real. I do understand you having reservations because of his past. She's like, but, he seems to be all in, pay attention, but, enjoy yourself. Be happy with it. And so she also lets her know about, which again, I just didn't like this. Like, I mean, I understand you may want someone to confide in, but then I'm kind of like, why you wouldn't just talk to Liesl? That is supposed to be her best friend. So like, before you couldn't talk about it because it was, supposed to be a fake relationship. But now that you guys are real, maybe, you should be able to go to Liesl now and kind of really be able to open up and tell her what's going on. I don't like that she's like telling this woman all this stuff. I just was like, why are you telling her this? So she's telling Celia that, he's never told her that he loves her. And it's like, why? I don't know. I just felt like she was giving this woman ammunition. It just pissed me off. Like, why would you do that? So she's like, he doesn't say that. Like, I don't even think he's ever said it to his mother. So don't take offense to it. It's just who he is. But he will show you he loves you in the way that he treats you and what he does for you. And so, that kind of satisfies, Elena for that moment. So then she was like, we should get together. This is Celia. We should get together, get coffee tomorrow. And she tells her, if I don't answer my phone, keep calling it because sometimes for some reason I don't get calls. It's just weird. Now that right there was like, why? That doesn't make sense. Because I can leave you a text message or I can leave you a voicemail. You can see where I've called you. I don't have to call you a dozen times. So that's where I kind of got mad at Elena because I'm like, as much as you overthink, you were just so okay with this. Like, that didn't like make you think like, okay, maybe I shouldn't, why does she really want me? I don't know. She just irked me with that. So they got plans set up. They're going to go meet up for coffee the next day. She then goes to work and she speaks with David about her different ideas, which was about bringing in more bachelorette parties because they have a great space for that. They have like these bubble domes. That's what I was trying to describe from the first book. That's what they're called. Bubble domes. So she thinks, that will make a great thing for like bachelorette parties. And so at first Dave was kind of like, but then as she kept going on and giving all the ideas, he was like, okay, no, that really will be a neat idea. So then he let her know, you're really not going to need to work overnights anymore. So you can kind of make your own schedule. And she was like, okay, cool. So that kind of worked because now she was kind of worried about that, them being on opposite schedules. And now they can kind of be on the same one. So she goes to Hudson's place for dinner. She tells him about work and her meeting with Celia. And so he tells her he's going to take Celia's key away and that he doesn't want her spending any time with her. So Elena says fine. And she was like, but if that's the case, you can't either. And he's like, all right, agreed. So the agreement was he could only be around her if Elena was present. So then Elena wants to know more about his past of tricking women. And of course, he doesn't want to talk about it. Now, let me back up a little bit. So I kind of like, okay, so if your dude is telling you, like, I don't really, like, I don't think it's a good idea for you to get close to her. So I know we can look at it two ways. It's either because she knows where all the bodies are buried, or he knows some stuff that you don't, and you probably shouldn't get involved. Either way, I feel like unless you fully just don't trust the person, I would just back off. I'm just saying. So with her wanting to know about she can't help herself. The girl, just her brain works like this, and she wants to know. So then he, of course, flips it on her, and he's like, okay, well then let's talk about your past with Paul. Oops. So Paul is the guy that still has the current restraining order against her. So she tells him the story, though. She's honest, because it's like, you know what? If I want to know information from him, I can't be like withholding stuff, as well. So she tells the story. So, she had been seeing Paul in a club, and she had already been like obsessing over him before she even met him. And then she kind of set it up where she could bump into him. He took her home. He fucked her. And then he wanted her to leave after, but she played sleep so she could like stay the night. Well, while he was in the bathroom, she went through his phone and she sent herself a message so she could have his phone number. Whoa. And then she also saw that there were like wedding invitations that she saw. I guess she was looking through his drawers and things like that. He had wedding invitations. So the dude was getting married. So after that night, she was completely obsessed. She wanted him. She was completely in love, she thought. And the girl goes all out. She calls thousands of times. She would wait outside his place of work. She did it for months, like, just kind of familiarizing herself with this man's schedule. She knew he had a girlfriend prior to even hooking up with him, but she didn't care because she wanted him. But then to find out he had a fiance was just like, oh my gosh, but it didn't stop her because she wanted him. And so she even befriended the fiance at the gym. And she came to a party with the fiance. I think her name was Brittany. I think it was Brittany. And she knew it was an event where Paul was going to be there. Of course, he was furious. And he had put a restraining order against her. But that wasn't enough for our Elena. So after that, she showed up to, she had talked to the security guard at his job. She had told him that she was his girlfriend. So the security guard let her up. And then she was waiting in his office. She like handcuffed herself to his desk, like some crazy stuff. And she was naked with nothing but like a trench coat on, thinking that was going to get him to be with her, but he didn't want her. And so then he had to call the police, and that was how she violated the restraining order. And then, of course, at that point, everything came out, and the fiance broke it off. Brittany, she broke it off with Paul. So then Hudson tells his story of what he had done with some people. So he tells a story of how he had set up two people. So he had put a couple together. One of the guys, his name was Owen. He was like total horn dog, like slept with everything. And there was this girl, she was super nice, and he set him up. And he was talking the girl up, like put her on this pedestal. And so of course the guy, because you got to think who Hudson is. So if Hudson thinks this highly of a broad, like, okay, she's got to be the greatest.